NextGen Economy Podcast, accelerating breakthroughs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NextGen Economy Podcast, broadcasting today on International Women's Day. And my name is Heidi Cuppari. I'm your host today. And I am the CEO and founder of Dream Tank and now Island 17, which gamifies and makes super fun the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and having youth take the technology of tomorrow, today, and design the future. And in my travels, I met Bonisha Maitra, who is here as our guest today. And I met her at ETH Denver. I am here in Boulder, Colorado, even though we are global in our incredible council and partners with the NextGen Economy Podcast and everyone who's in this community. We're excited to have you here and to hear the voice of Bonisha. So I went to ETH Denver a couple of weeks ago, and I went there really to connect with people of like mind and spirit and follow kind of the energy, which is a fun way to approach a conference when there's thousands of people from around the world everywhere. And in my travels, I met an amazing group of people who remembered what I believe in and what we do with Island 17. And I got a phone call. I was sitting there with one of our newest council members, Jennifer Capo, and we were going to submit a grant. And I thought, there's something missing. And every time we do everything at Dream Tank and now Island 17, we always get the input of young people. Felt weird, something was off. And literally the phone rang and it was Rob saying, I have two 16-year-old young women who flew out here to ETH Denver who want to meet you. And I knew that was the moment when everything was going to fit in alignment. And that was the magic that was missing. And so we sat down and I was fascinated by yours and your friend Eliza's story. So I'd like to ask you some questions. Again, very excited. She's here from California. Will you share kind of just an introduction, your name, your age, and your location?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the introduction, Heidi. It's amazing to meet you as well, and everyone listening. But as mentioned, my name is Bonisha Maitra. I am 16 years old, and I am located in the Bay Area, California. And something about me is basically I'm a 16-year-old innovator and an entrepreneur. So I have a pre-existing NGO called Project Sundar that strives to help out women in India have sustainable necessities, including like hygiene things and water and resources. So yeah, just having a more sustainable lifestyle or creating that for women in India. And I am also a huge enthusiast for IoT intersecting with blockchain to further help sustainable goals. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here right now, and thank you guys so much for having me today.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful intro. And before we go into the next question, I have to ask you a question that other moms and parents are probably burning. As soon as I heard that you came and you were 16 and we sat down, I said, how did you convince your parents to come? Tell us the story, because there's a lot of parents and people who want to support their kids, but hearing your story could give them some confidence as well.
Yeah. So personally, I totally understand having like parents who are concerned for you. My parents actually immigrated from India to America, and so that itself was a huge jump. And so of course they were scared for their little girl to like grow up here. Like it was very foreign to them overall. And so like huge respect and massive hats off to all, like to both of my parents and every single immigrant parents and parents in general for raising like amazing kids. But also honestly, I'm not gonna lie, convincing them was a struggle. It took me, I'd say, like around a month for them to be fully convinced. But I would say, like, honestly, kids do grow up, and I know it sucks a lot, especially for parents, for their little loved ones to grow up and be independent, but it has to come one way or the other. And I think the way I convince them the most is just saying, like, hey, mom, I'm gonna be going off to college very soon. Like, and a lot of times when people and kids go to college, they don't know what to do with so much independence, right? And so, like, um, it could go the wrong way, it could go the way that they don't want it. And so I kind of wanted to like gradually get into that independence. And so I was like, mom, if I go here for like 1 week, it's just kind of like a, think of it as like a simulation, where like it's like a simulation for college, you know? Like, let me get that independence and let me see what I do with it. Let's see how I eat, let's see how I take care of myself, let's see what I do. And then she was like, okay. And of course, there were those hourly calls of my mom checking in, those texts and all of that. But with that, it was like the silver lining of the entire situation, right? And honestly, it's scary, but it's bound to happen. So I think, like letting your kids pursue their passions and ways for them to be independent. Those are like the main two things for sure.
Yeah. So everyone watching, I'm sure you are just smiling and blown away. And exactly, Bonisha represents really just the essence of everything that I live to support, and I want to do with everything that we're doing with Island 17. And so Bonisha is one of the newest members of our Jedi Council DAO at Island 17. I'm so excited to work with you on some different projects. And she's also joining our Youth Tech Council within. And so really, I realized that a lot of adults, and especially people who are trying to innovate in this space, are not necessarily native to the technology. And one of the talks I gave, I said, how many people here in the audience know somebody from Gen Z in their life? And almost everyone raised their hand. And then I said, and how many of you asked them for help with your technology? And they all raised their hand. And I said, so why aren't we asking them on how to use technology to design the future? And that was, really a big awareness for adults in realizing how much you can do and how much you know, and how wise you are. And so with that, I'm going to ask the next question. As a developer yourself and going through hackathons, what do you see as the opportunity?
Yeah, I think hackathons in general are like amazing because they're not really biased. Like they go for all types of people, all groups of people. And I think it's like I mentioned, like a whole simulation for like the real world. And it's like a outlet where you can kind of channel all of your creativity, your energy, time and everything and to see like what you're actually potential of, you know? And so I feel like as a kid and like as a high school student, you're often put into a bubble where you, like I mentioned, like before while conversing with Heidi, I was just saying like you go to school, you wake up, you go to school, you come home, homework, extracurriculars, bam, and then it's just repetitive, you know. There's nothing that puts you like in a different time or just to see like, okay, what am I actually what do I actually have potential for in terms of implementing in the real world. And so I feel like hackathons are the perfect opportunity to not only like challenge yourself and to figure out who you are as a person, but also just to see like, okay, what am I capable of? Like, what can I do that can actually be made into an action? And these actions don't just go into grades, don't just go into like 98% into my grade book, but no, but like it's actual implementation in the real world. And so I just think it's an amazing opportunity. And like, again, kids don't have a lot to lose in the first place. Like I understand like why kids are so focused because like and spotlighted in terms of this new technology space because first of all we are bound to make mistakes, correct? Like we are not that wise yet, we don't have that much experience, and so therefore we don't have taxes to think about, we don't have debts, we don't have to think about like family or anything, we have nothing to lose, you know. And so I think it's like the perfect opportunity to just put yourself out there and seek discomfort and maybe create that new comfort that makes you the best version of yourself. Yeah.
Amazing. And I have a question about the kind of discomfort. I mean, would you say like your generation, is feeling discomfort anyway right now, right? What would you describe different kinds of discomfort versus like doing something like this versus not doing something like this? And what would you say to young people and parents who are feeling disenfranchised, disengaged, that kind of discomfort? How would you describe the different feelings?
I would say it's just like an identity thing. Like, honestly, you never know what that discomfort may lead to. And so not knowing can also lead to like a whole new world. Like, my first hackathon was, I would say, a couple, like 5 or 6 months ago. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about IoT and blockchain at that time. And so I ended up, like, it was a 24-hour hackathon. I ended up researching for 13 hours straight. And then I created a smart contract that also uses IoT sensors to help farmers in Kenya. And so, like, it's something that, like, I started off with, like, little to no knowledge about, and I just knew it existed. And then it led to something huge and massive, you know?
And
And
you
so,
learn it so well when you're applying it, right?
yes. And I think like it's scary at first because it's something that's like a huge like thing and it's a commitment for sure, but I think it's for the best and it makes you grow as not only like a developer, not only as a like hacker or whatever, but it helps you grow as a human being. It helps with teamwork, it helps with leadership, it helps with just content learning, you know? Like I think it's amazing. Like hackathons are very very looked up on for sure.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's really I've noticed it just switches a different it flips a different switch in your mind when you're following a curriculum versus asked to almost create it. It's just something happens in all my years working with young people. It's just the most amazing thing to witness. And you talking about it so lit up, I know is just such a boost. I don't see many young people talking about their homework or their projects that way, sadly. But I think that a lot of the existing curriculum, we don't have to abolish the subjects. I think we can apply the subjects, right, to something, right? So I think it's a shift, it's a remix. Doesn't need to be a complete, right? But I wanted to ask next, what is your view of income producing actions in crypto, NFTs, or smart contracts?
Yeah, I think that entire process, like staking, minting, investing, and royalty funds, all of that, I think those entire concepts are such amazing opportunities to actually like get a source of income because it's not, again, it's not biased. Like it's very like you invest a little bit and you get like even more back. And there's not like much to lose, you know? And so I feel like the entire income producing actions in general, like I think it creates a lot of opportunities for everyone and it's very beginner friendly, I would say. There's so many resources and once you're in the space, it's very very hard to get out of that space because it's so addicting but in a good way. It's so like rewarding and satisfying. So I my view on that entire process, like mining and all of that, I think it's amazing, like the entire thing as a whole.
Yeah, I love it. I love hearing, a lot of the idea that, I see with a lot of these technologies for your generation is that, because we know, and there's reports that show that when your generation right now graduates from college, 60% of the jobs aren't even going to be there anymore. And that was a report that came even before COVID. So I think it's probably worse now. And so to prepare you all with the future of work skills is kind of essential,
Yeah.
and to learn how to fend for yourself in the world and give that economic, opportunity at a young age, doing something you love. I also believe that's a recipe for peace, right? I mean, what do you think about, imagine like if all the kids in the world could do some of the stuff that you're doing, or they got to be expressed and be as lit up as you in the most remote area. What do you think is the possibility of these technologies for kids like that?
Man, I couldn't even imagine. Like it's so vast and I think one main thing that nobody really talks about is how diverse the entire space is. Let's say you like art. go create NFTs. Like, let's say you like hacking, like you can be a developer. Like, there are so many opportunities. It's genuinely like a whole universe. Like, it's like I said, it's not biased. Like, there's room for everyone, you know? And like, I think that's really amazing. Like, if it could be accessible to anyone and everyone, I think we would have potential to genuinely like completely revolutionize like the way society works, because for the best, of course, because everyone would have a way to like produce income without having to do or like sacrifice what they're passionate about, right? Because you could do so many different things with like crypto, NFTs, and smart contracts, etc., to the point where like you won't have to like say, okay, I'm gonna move away from graphic design because I need to make more money and go into a different like major or something, you know? Like, it's just accessible and it's like brilliantly individualized. So I think it would be amazing like if everyone had access to it, and it's very beginner friendly too. So it's scary at first, but it's an amazing like space in general. So that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Amazing. I would love now to share a little bit about your experience as, a young woman, and also coming to ETH Denver, and then meeting Jennifer and I, and just your experience about that and celebrating that, us coming together on International Women's Day.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, it feels surreal to this day, like meeting such powerful and strong women and like coming together on International Women's Day. It's just so empowering as a whole, because I feel like women in general are really, really underrepresented in this space, because like we talked about at ETH Denver, like the entire space is a very male dominant energy, you know? Like, it's not really focused on feminine energy or like woman and like as a whole. And so I feel like us coming together, it gives me like kind of like a pedestal to like genuinely put my voice like forward, and it makes me feel genuinely heard, because this is an opportunity and this is like a thing that I never imagined in my life that would happen. And that's just the beauty of this space, right? Like, you meet new people and then you're just randomly best friends, or like you guys just start working together. And so like, honestly, I think it's really rewarding, and I think it just shows that there is a genuine change that is being made in society today. Because if if we were to ask a woman, let's say 50 years ago, that this would be happening, I am pretty positive that that would be like a rare sight, let alone a 16-year-old girl. So it's very different and it's scary for sure, but I think it has the best potential to be amazing for like society within this space. So I'm really grateful for all of this.
It's so, I was so grateful just that, it was just, a friend of mine calls it Win Central Station. I love that. She's hysterical. Uh, Cherie, shout out to you. Uh, it sounds better than win, win, win. And, but really it was just a meeting of just magic, because it was, we always want many different generations in what we're doing. And you seemed so natural that you were able to do a pitch for what we were doing, right, to the COO of Harmony. How did you feel about that being put forward in a different light after you mentioned you all week you kind of felt small?
Yeah. Honestly, the entire week, I'm not gonna lie, I felt pretty inferior, because I felt as though I didn't belong there, even though I did everything else that the other sponsored kids did. You know, I just felt like, okay, like I don't know what inside me told me like, okay, be quiet, like, okay, no more networking. I'm like, okay, but I just saw myself keep making sacrifices to seem even more inferior. And I feel like the reason for this is because it was really hard to like get my voice across in comparison to like five other boys like my age or that seemed older, to just talk. And I felt like to them it was very natural, but to me it was like I can't do this. And it's really interesting to me because I personally am an extrovert. I love socializing. I love meeting new people. And then suddenly I just see myself in a space where I felt like, okay, I should like quiet down a little and just like observe. But then as soon as I met you guys, I was like, why am I doing that? Like there's no reason for that. Like brains don't have like genders, brains don't have like any of this. So why do I feel the need to like completely change myself? So I think like in general it was just really empowering, and I don't know, like it was an amazing, amazing thing. But I kind of got sidetracked. So what was your main question that you just asked? Got
Just well, it was mostly about, anything, just kind of, I think you're saying it, which was what can we celebrate about, women and girls today. And I think one of the things you're saying is like when we see more women in the space and we also they are welcoming,
yeah,
then we gives us permission to step forward more. And that, you know, culture matters, and feeling welcomed matters, and feminine energy matters in the space, right? And that it gives us permission, and in a very male dominated space. And you're I don't know if anybody probably intentionally wanted to make you feel that way, but it's interesting that that's how you felt. I've been a woman in finance and tech for many years, and I've sometimes felt that and sometimes not, but um, we are growing a lot. And I know that the space wants a lot of more women and girls. So that's a really exciting time.
yeah, and I think that ties in perfectly with the seek discomfort thing, because it was not my most comfortable space at first, but as I was starting to meet more empowered women, those women empowered me, and it was just like a reciprocated action. And I think it was just it was like life changing for me, I think, to see like such powerful and strong women just like speak their minds and like, just be there and be present. And I think that's just like amazing, and it really influences other women to just, or people who identify as women, to just like be themselves. And so I think the entire thing was just amazing, and it's definitely a change in the tech space for women. And I think it's really like changing complete hierarchy. Like I don't even know why there is a hierarchy in the first place and why it's mostly men, but we are here to break that, right? So
Are, yeah. And part of that is, observing conferences like that from the perspective, because they really want to hear from us. You remember we were talking to them
yeah,
and saying how, or we were talking about how things were so crammed in and it was just so intense, right? So there was it, but then they did have the Zen zone. They had this Zen zone, right? Which was beautiful that the organizers did this.
yeah.
And also, I think ETH Denver is the largest organized crypto conference by a DAO. Can you share what that is? I think that just share a little bit about that from your perspective, because I think that's exciting. And then end with what maybe can the organizers do better to support women and girls and getting more into the space.
Yeah, so basically, what it is like it was just like a huge venue and like a whole city that was just filled with like-minded people who just genuinely were passionate about the Web3 space and like blockchain and crypto and all of this. And so every time you took a turn, it's just like, oh yeah, like you know me, like I'm starting a DAO, or like one person's like, oh yeah, I'm an NFT artist, and it's just like, oh my gosh, but like-minded people, like just imagine having amazing conversations with everyone.
Like the same thing. Everybody, I ended up meeting the organizer
Uh-huh.
after,
Wow.
and I was just like, wow, you created such incredible energy.
Yes.
Everybody had such an incredible experience.
Yes. 100%. I think it was really like it's just depending on you, I feel like if you were into like developing things, you would be around developers. Like it's just like community building, and it was so like amazing to see such inclusive like area and like inclusive people, and everyone was so welcoming. And yeah, I agree with you, the Zen zone, they had so many zones. Like if you went all the way on the top floor, they had like a whole venue, and it was just like completely dimmed, and there were like a bunch of art pieces in like certain rooms, and there were meditation spots, there were like napping spots, and like it's just like it was really amazing to see, because I feel like oftentimes when we go to crypto spaces or when we go to tech conferences, it can get really overstimulating, and I feel like it can cause a lot of senses of like overwhelm. And so it was kind of an area to ground yourself and to like reboot and then come back out and then like, stand your ground. And I think it was a really perfect like decision or an idea. And so I really loved that in at ETH Denver. And I'd say like a couple things to kind of maybe change, or like a couple things to maybe take note of, would be like figuring out on how to make it more organized, especially during COVID. I feel like it was a little overwhelming because it was so crowded, and it was like a lot of people were trying to get to places. So maybe finding ways to keep it a little more organized and a little more calm. And I would say one thing is they did have like a child care program for women who did attend, for their children to be taken care of. But I feel like making it like maybe more bigger, more accessible, because it was in like one singular small room.
I
And
didn't know about it actually.
yeah. They had that, and I thought that was amazing, but maybe making it more accessible, because like you said, like not everyone knew about it, And so then I'm sure like there would be a lot more women present if they were aware about that, but there wasn't a lot of marketing about it in the first place. And so potentially showing women moms that they're heard and they're seen and they're still welcomed into the space. So just like branding it better for suitably for women, mothers.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful kind of, let's just wrap by having a final comment about International Women's Day. If there's anything else you would like to share to this audience about, and now you have the pedestal and you have the voice, about how we can all celebrate International Women's Day in our own ways and impact just one person even, or the world. Just share.
Yeah. Honestly, I think every single day should be International Women's Day. I think women
Right on.
are amazing. We are like, there's mothers, there's artists, there's so much that women have to offer. And I think embracing the qualities that women have in the first place, and how powerful they are, and how significant, seen, and heard that they are, is so amazing. And so I'm putting all of the women all around the world on the pedestal with me, because I think they all deserve like a huge amount of gratitude every single day, but especially today, especially to women who have huge, huge, huge dreams and sometimes feel like it's not possible. It is possible. Just try to grab every single opportunity you are handed. And I would echo many, many times, seek discomfort, because it's not always going to be comfortable. And I can guarantee to you, the people that seem like they made it big, they had uncomfortable times as well. So just be safe, but seek discomfort, and just like know that you have immense potential to do whatever you want. You can change the world. You just have to believe it, because the only person who has power over yourself is you. So don't let other people tear you down, because there will be a lot of people tearing you down. You just have to be resilient, ignore the haters, and you do you. Yeah.
All right, drop the mic. Bonisha, I really can't follow that at all. I am so happy that we met. Your voice is going to be heard and ripple through this beautiful community and beyond. And we're so excited to working on all kinds of awesome gender integrations into our game with you, and really having gender equality achieved in less than the time that we have for the SDGs. So with that, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much. And we are closing the NextGen Economy Podcast broadcast on International Women's Day with Bonisha Maitra and your host today, Heidi Cuppari. Out. Thank you.
NextGen Economy Podcast, accelerating breakthroughs.